Доброго дня, шановні друзі, шановні колеги. Дозвольте вас всіх вітати завтрашній Василя Вікторовича червоного корпусу. Ми сьогодні маємо надзвичайно чудову нагоду поспілкуватися і побачити людей, які проводять неабиякий інтерес для будь-якого гуманітарія. Насамперед, перед початком я хочу всіх попросити достати свої мобільні телефони і ставити їх на беззвучний режим. Як в театрі, адміністрація театру, університету просить всіх це зробити. Я маю велику честь і нагоду сьогодні складати наш співдрузів, колег з Український католицький університет, який організовує візит пана Джона Кейсі до України і менш відомо на будь-якого гуманітарія, який відзнався насамперед, що це професор Хосе. Давайте привітаємо і всіх наших. Насамперед, хотів би подякувати професору Леву, ректору Українського католицького університету, давньому другу і колезі нашого університету, тому що насправді завдяки нашій вже не просто співпраці, а дружбі з паном Олегом в університеті відбувається велика кількість заходів, асоційованих з УКУ, і насамперед я з великою вдячністю згадати те, що ювілейний рік Театру Російського теж починався в стінах нашого університету, в нашому мистецькому салоні. Це було, мабуть, одне з таких найголовніших дійств ювілейного року. І ми імені ректора Василя Вікторовича і ректорату дякуємо всій спільноті УКУ і пану Олегу за те, що ми мали цю величезну нагоду і радість спілкування. Той раз особливо, хоча зараз наголошу таких заходів відбувається надзвичайно багато, і це для нас величезно. Щоб не полишати найбільшої насолоди для будь-якого гуманітарного насолоди спілкування, я хочу запросити до свого професора Олега Тур'яка, ректора Українського католицького університету, і ще раз професора великого друга Українського національного університету Тараса Шевченка. Прошу.
Дякую сердечно Володимиру Анатолійовичу, і насправді приємно кожного разу в стінах цього славетного університету, можливо, нам з невеличкого регіонального навчального закладу, але саме мені здається, що завдяки тому, що ми поєднуємо наші сильні сторони і робимо це дуже щиро, дуже відкрито і дуже сердечно, але також і професійно, то нам разом вдаються добрі справи. Кожен з нас ділиться тим, що в ньому є, може запропонувати щось, що може підсилити іншу сторону. Це є той випадок, про який ми можемо говорити, що виграють всі, більше того, виграють найбільше, ніж ми самі, ніж наші її спільноти, тому я думаю, у нас насправді є набагато більше попереду завдань, ніж того, що вже у нас є позаду, але те, що ми зробили, є тим добрим фундаментом, на якому ми завжди можемо будувати. Наслідуючи добрий приклад свого колеги, я також не буду затримувати увагу. Справді, вартує використати час максимально для того, щоб поспілкуватися з тими, хто рідше буває в Україні, в наших стінах. Я тільки виконаю, як ви трошки знаєте, на правах реклами, як інколи кажуть, що плати не будуть вимагати, а навпаки, тільки ваших посмішок і підтримки. Це представити коротесенько цю книжку, речі навіть не представити, а показати. Я знаю, що її вже майже розібрали, тому я дуже дякую вам за таку підтримку нашої публікації. Це збірничок, найновіший збірничок статей професора Хосе Казанови, який буде презентуватися вже так по-справжньому завтра у відкритому православному університеті Софії Київської. Запрошуємо тих з вас, хто може прийти. А вже сьогодні, після закінчення цієї зустрічі, професор Хосе Казанова готовий буде підписати особисто тим, хто бажає, і хто пообіцяє прочитати цю книжку до завтра і відбирати у свої. Дякую.
Я передаю слово
професор. Просете за мною, який буде модерувати нашу зустріч.
Добрий день, шановні пані і панове, шановні студенти. Мені також дуже приємно мати нагоду бути з вами сьогодні. I have a special pleasure and the honor to introduce today's speaker, Professor Sean Casey, who is the director of the Berkeley Center for Religion, Peace and World Affairs at Georgetown University. It's my own center where I also work, so he's my director. And he himself is also professor of the practice at the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University. Professors of the practice are those professors who actually had practice in public administration, Washington, D.C., the university, and Professor Casey worked for many years in the State Department directing the Office of Global Religious Affairs. Before that, he worked as a professor of theology. He's a well-known theologian, political theologian, and expert on the great American theologian Reinhard Niebuhr. He also wrote a very important book on the election, a very important historical election of the first Catholic president, the electoral competition between Nixon and Kennedy, precisely, and the role of religion in these electoral politics that has remained one of the main areas of expertise of Professor Sean Casey. So it is my great pleasure to introduce him and to give him basically the honor.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Jose, for that warm introduction. Mr. Vice Rector, ladies and gentlemen and students, it's an honor for me to be here with you this afternoon, and thank you all for that very warm reception. It's a distinct pleasure for me to be back in Kiev, only this time I'm coming as a private person, as a professor. The first time I came in 2015, I was working for the United States Secretary of State John Kerry, and I had the privilege of visiting this historic city and meeting with a wide array of religious leaders in order to help the United States administration in the Obama era to gain a deeper understanding of the very complex and fascinating religious dynamics of Ukraine. I remember coming away impressed by many things, and today we go through the Maidan, and I was reminded of the heroism and the memory and just the palpable sense of energy I saw in this town and in this country, celebrating the events that had recently transpired there in Maidan, and it left a deep imprint on me. Even though I had traveled to many other countries in that same period, what I saw here indeed left an indelible mark. So I came away from that visit very impressed by your religious pluralism here and its rich history. I came away impressed with the tenacity and resilience of the Ukrainian people, and I saw the deep hopes in the country for your future in the face of many, many challenges, not the least of which were the twin challenges of religious pluralism and religious freedom, and how you were trying to address these issues anew in the context of significant external political pressure. Now, in my post-diplomatic years, when I went back to the Academy to teach, I continued to follow events here, and especially the ecclesiastical events that have begun to unfold in dramatic fashion recently. So I'm deeply honored by the invitation from the Ukrainian Catholic University to come to Lviv and come here and learn more about what's going on in the great country. I am keenly aware that you are living in a very pivotal, dramatic period of time in your nation's history. And as you sort these questions, you are setting a course that's going to shape the lives of generations to come in ways that you and I can only begin to imagine. So against this historic and dramatic background, my purpose today is to spend some time elaborating 3 discrete moments in my own country's history, in America's history. And it's not to tell you, be more like America. In fact, I'm going to try to tell you, learn from mistakes that America has made at the intersection of religion and religious pluralism. Because as a professor, I know that sometimes the most important lessons can be the ones we draw from our own mistakes. So I come to you not as the arrogant, ugly American, as we are often famously depicted, but I hope to come to you to say, don't make the mistakes we did. Learn from our mistakes and see if you can't do better than we have done in our past. So my intent is then to answer the question, what can you learn from America's mistakes? You see, we too believe deeply and passionately in religious freedom, and we have a richly diverse religious landscape in our country. In fact, that's one of the deep links I see between the lived experience here and what we have in America. But saying the words religious freedom doesn't always indicate precisely what you mean by religious freedom. So in the United States, we've been arguing for over 2 centuries what actually does religious freedom mean. We've not come to a consensus on that. And it can spark, as I hope you'll see by the end of my lecture today, embracing religious freedom can spark very different kinds of political and social reactions in a population. And it's those reactions in my country that I want to hold up for scrutiny today. So one of the things we have to learn is that these ideas may mean different things in different political contexts. And if there's one fatal flaw in American diplomacy, is that far too often we have assumed everybody will see the world we do, and if you don't, you should. And that comes across as arrogance. That comes across as ignorance. So today I'm trying to take a slightly different tack than perhaps historically American diplomacy has taken in past days. I think we have to learn it for ourselves, that the struggle for religious freedom in the face of religious pluralism may take a different path here than it took in the United States. And that's my humble, modest thesis for the discussion today. I hope that in some small way, what I say may contribute to a hard, slow work of building Ukrainian democracy, which ultimately you must do for yourselves. Today, Professor Casanova and I were in a television interview, and the moderator asked me, Sean, what advice do you have to solve Ukraine's democratic issues? And I smiled and said, that's not a question for me to answer. So today the answer comes from you. It doesn't come from me. I'm not going to attempt to arrogantly dictate terms to you that I wouldn't understand anyway. So what I'm going to do is draw on my scholarly work and also my diplomatic work, where I traveled the globe for about 4 years working for John Kerry, establishing the Office of Religion and Global Affairs. And I traveled the world, I sent my staffers around the globe so that we would become better interpreters of religion. You're going to see in a moment why that's important for diplomacy, to understand religious dynamics around the world. Over my career, as Jose said, I've been a theologian, I've been an ethicist, and later in my career I had the opportunity to advise the Secretary of State. He's fond of saying that we ignore the impact and power of religion in diplomacy at our peril. And he understands that religion can be a multivalent force. Religion is not always purely good in society. Religion is not always purely evil in society. Sometimes the religious dynamics in the country are inscrutable. They can't be penetrated by outside observers. Many times the consequences of religious communities in the country or in a region are very mixed and very complicated, and woven into the politics, to the society, and the institutions of a particular country. And it's very hard to gain a more sophisticated understanding, but one that's necessary, because we believe, at least Secretary Kerry did, and I agree with him, that the power of religion exists across the globe, both in politics, but also in civil society. I think you would agree that if you try to understand Ukraine and you say, I don't need to understand religious dynamics, you are never going to grasp what's really happening in this country. It was Kerry's intuition that the American diplomatic establishment too often had ignored the insights about what religion could do for good and what it could do for evil. And as a result, America committed many diplomatic blunders around the world. And because of our ignorance, we damaged the world, we changed the world in such ways you're going to see in a moment. I'm going to argue that the consequences have been catastrophic in certain parts. So my central concern today is attempting to answer the question, what can Ukraine learn about its own relationship between the robust religious pluralism we have here and the religious freedom that everybody is trying to embrace? And what can you learn about that from the American experience? I'm going to argue that through 3 different lessons or case studies of how Ukraine might learn from the mistakes we've made. The first episode is from our current times, where our current president, Donald Trump, has attempted to reward a very narrow, specific religious constituency in our country, and these are evangelical Protestant Christians, and also a xenophobic political base of populists, by imposing what he called a Muslim ban, in which he designed to prevent Muslims from either visiting the United States or coming as immigrants or refugees. The second moment I'm going to examine came from 2003, which, as you may recall, although some of you weren't really awake or born even at that point, it seems like ancient history. That's when America invaded Iraq and then occupied it. And we attempted to impose a form of constitutionalism on Iraq in the name of promoting religious freedom. We ironically wanted to separate mosque and state in such a heavy-handed manner by seeking to restrict the power of Shiite religious leaders. Think about that, the irony of wanting to expand religious freedom for some groups by limiting the religious freedom of other groups. We're going to look at in somewhat deeper depth of that second episode. And then finally, briefly, I'm going to look at the third episode from the election of 1960, when John F. Kennedy tried to become the first Roman Catholic president elected in our history, and indeed he did succeed. But he succeeded despite an unprecedented organized movement on the part of American Protestants to argue a Catholic should never become president of the United States. And again, the argument was to protect the religious freedom of Protestants, we must prevent a Catholic from exercising his religious freedom to run for the office of presidency. So you see some irony between the pluralism and the granting or not granting of religious freedom. And then I'm looking forward to, assuming I get done in enough time, I revel in the opportunity to field your questions and see what kind of discussion we have. That's what I learned the most, is the back and forth. Let me turn now to the first case from American contemporary politics. As a presidential candidate, Donald Trump routinely attacked Muslims in speeches in exceptionally harsh language particularly in the context of modern presidential politics in our nation. He demonized Muslims, and he played on American fears that Muslims are either terrorists or terrorists in waiting. Now that's an astonishing charge to make against 1.6 billion people around the planet, to say nothing of the 5 to 7 million Muslims that already live in the United States and have lived in our country from the very beginning at its founding. One time in his campaign, he argued for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. And his audience, his campaign rally went wild with glee at that call, towards that call for banning Muslims. Right after his inauguration on January 20, 2017, he and his advisors continued to call for a travel ban. Within days of being sworn in as president, he issued a travel ban for several Muslim-majority countries on January 27th, just a week after becoming president. In contrast, a federal court then issued a restraining order against the president on February 3rd, barely a week later itself. Not to be deterred, not to be slowed down, President Trump tried again. He issued a second executive order, this time on March 6th, a month after the restraining order. And a few days later, someone else went into federal court, and that court issued a restraining order on March 15th, 2017. So you begin to see the dynamic. He issues a ban, somebody intercedes in the courts, and the court says, no, you can't do that. He goes back and issues another slightly rewritten executive order, and then the federal courts come in a second time and say, no, that's unconstitutional. You cannot target a specific religious group and ban them because that violates the Constitution. 6 months later, in September 2017, a third executive order was issued from our White House that banned travel from a smaller set of countries, this time only 5 countries, most of them primarily Muslim majority countries. Then, several months later, July 26, 2018, the Supreme Court of the United States, by a 5-4 vote, upheld the right of the President to issue a travel ban, and he then send the case back to the lower court so that it could be argued on the merits, but it settled the question that theoretically the President has the power to issue such a ban against a target like Muslims trying to come into the country. Now, this was a particularly distressing time to be an American who believed in religious freedom. Because on the face of it, this seems to defy the common sense understanding that if you guarantee religious freedom law, you cannot arbitrarily prevent members of one religious group from being able to come to the United States in the absence of any specific argument or evidence as to why they pose some sort of threat to the country. So we saw one of the very few, in fact, I can't think of another time in American history where an American president is directly targeted and pointed to a single religious community and said, you cannot come into the United States without any real empirical justification for that act. Thus, it was one of the few overtly religiously bigoted campaigns by an American president against one of the largest religions in the world during the modern American presidency. What I want to turn your attention to now, however, despite that distressing episode, is the response of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. And they filed what is called an amicus brief, or a friend of the court letter, in which our Supreme Court, before it hears argumentation and makes a decision on a case before them, they open up the internet, they open up the mail so that any citizen or any organized citizen group can send in a piece of advice telling them how to rule or how not to rule in cases before them. And the Conference of U.S. Bishops routinely writes letters on issues that they are concerned about, issues that deal with ethics, issues that deal with morals, and they felt compelled to file a brief in this case, and I find its argumentation compelling. And I want to walk you through the case they made against the President of the United States. I find the arguments of the bishops to be worthy of serious scrutiny today. And put a little footnote here, because I think this is an example of how in a secular state where we do not have a single state church, but we have a rich pluralistic civil society, one role that religious communities can play in public life in a secular democracy is to push the country towards nobler, more moral goals and ends. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said during his short lifetime, that the role of the church, not the only role, that one of the roles of the church is to be the conscience of a country and call it to fulfill the better angels of its creed. And I think this is a classic example where the American Catholic Church did exactly that in the face of what I would call just a disturbing act of bigotry on the part of our president. As we become more religiously pluralistic, in this case, the Muslim population has grown dramatically in the United States over the last few decades. Muslims have met with growing resistance in our society, and I'm not proud of that. But particularly from our rising populist politicians and movements, exemplified here most publicly by President Trump. And I think the Catholic response to their Muslim brothers and sisters here is indeed exemplary. The bishops based their case on 4 sets of arguments. They argued from history, they argued from ethics, they argued from law, and they argued from their own praxis, as servants of a whole community. With respect to history, the brief notes that Catholics in America had faced long periods of exclusion themselves and resistance all across the country from various sectors of American society. And it was only in the late 20th 20th century did many of those historic barriers in the form of overt discrimination begin to recede. Given this history, the bishops argued that Catholics should be especially keen to resist similar forms of religious discrimination when they see other religious communities being targeted. Here the bishops were exhibiting a deeply central theological part of Catholic social teachings, and that's solidarity with the marginalized and solidarity with the oppressed. They're not interested just in the fate of their own religious community, but they believe that they should be interested in the interest of any religious community that is on the receiving end of oppression or discrimination. Further, as a fundamental part of Catholic social teaching argues that there is an inherent dignity in all human persons, and that dignity should never be undermined or denied, the Church has no alternative to countering experiences such as the one we see now, where the President is trying to ban Muslims from coming to our country or seeking asylum here. Likewise, the theological and moral belief that all human beings are social beings as the basis for multiple forms of community ranging from the family all the way up to the national political order attempts to segregate or prevent certain classes of people from being able to participate in the community is a deep moral injustice, and such discrimination should not be tolerated in any society. The bishops go on to argue that American law, and in this case the First Amendment to our Constitution, prohibits discrimination on the basis of religion. If this is true, it's a fundamental violation of the Constitution for our federal government to deny travel to an application for asylum to any specific religious group, simply on the basis of the religious affiliation and absent any other, say, security justification. While it is true that our President is responsible for protecting the security of all Americans, in the absence of a clear documented security threat from Muslims, any ban solely based on religious affiliation or membership is unconstitutional on its face. Now, American security experts have been very clear. We do not face a security threat from the countries and Muslims targeted in this specific ban. Security threats, there is no security threat from Muslims who come from the countries listed in the ban. There is then, I would argue, a clear animus on the part of the President towards Muslims based on the fact that they are simply Muslims and they are not Christians or some other group. And the last argument the Catholic Church offers is that they have been the largest resettler of refugees in America over the last decade. Think about that. In that decade, we have resettled somewhere close to 1 million refugees in our country. A majority of those people, Syria, from all over the globe, have been done by the Roman Catholic Church. So they speak from experience in this case. They don't speak from some distant abstract view. This cuts to the heart of who they are, and it cuts to the heart of what they believe their mission is. So the theological and political judgment they're offering to the Supreme Court rises out of the praxis of the Church itself. To deny Muslims access is an indirect affront to the mission of the Roman Catholic Church in America. The prophetic witness of the Church in America, born out of its ministerial service, calls for the bishops to enter into the legal system to resist what they perceive to be the President's unjust efforts. The Church has a duty to remind a secular liberal democracy to hold fast to its deepest moral commitments, to protect the religious freedom of all, and not to restrict any religious group based on the political whims of populists and xenophobic supporters of a particular candidate. My conclusion here is that religious freedom has to be extended to all religions, not just those that enjoy the largesse of any particular dominant political party. As time passes, today's favored religious group might be tomorrow's target. In this case, the Catholic Church is arguing that America needs more democracy and has to keep the needs of all religious groups aside, not just the politically expedient groups. Here we see a vision of increasing pluralism in a liberal democracy that provokes fear and anxiety on the part of a majority of religions in America. This in turn sets off a legal attempt to restrict the freedom of that minority to travel to and from and stay in America. I fear this may be a perpetual temptation of liberal democracies where you have a pluralism of religious communities. That is, we will always be subject to movements of new religions coming into different countries. It seems to be one of the facts of globalization today that people are on the move, and this increased mobility of human beings coupled with the increasing multiple drivers of forced migration are going to create more cases in more countries where a liberalism of fear may emerge and tempt countries to respond defensively and restrictively against minority religions. And I would argue this is not a good thing. And those of us who believe in religious freedom, those of us who believe in religious pluralism, have to constantly monitor our thinking, if you will. How do we really feel about religions that are different from our own and perhaps much smaller and perhaps even exotic in our eyes? We must never give up on the democratic commitment to their religious freedom, and that we should never want to sacrifice their freedom to somehow insulate our own. The second case I want to move to is in the aftermath of the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. Now, I'm not going to argue the moral case against the invasion of Iraq. I'm simply going to assert and tell you I was against that invasion in 2003. And I, at that point, was a young, believe it or not, inexperienced professor in Washington, D.C., and this was my first entry into political life as a political theologian. And I organized ethicists and Christian theologians against that war. If you know anything about history, we were not successful in preventing that war, but nevertheless, we tried to build a coalition of resistance because we thought it was immoral and just war and also pacifist crimes. The invasion and the long occupation, I think, represents the worst foreign policy blunder by America since the Vietnam War. I take no pride, I take no joy in that fact. But here we are, still fighting our longest war in America's history in Afghanistan, with no end of peril in sight. Its impact, particularly the Iraq War, continues to cascade throughout the world, and its costs will be paid by my children's children. But that's not my main concern here. I want to focus on how the U.S. sought to impose a form of constitutionalism, a limited form of constitutionalism on Iraq, such that some Iraqi people would have become the tool for resisting and legally restraining forms of historic pluralism in Iraq. I'm going to explain that in a moment. The Iraq War provides, I think, powerful evidence that ignorance of religion in American diplomacy could be costly and indeed fatal. This became one of my stock arguments when I went into the State Department in 2013, when people would say, why should we care about religion in the American foreign policy apparatus? I learned early in my time at the State Department that there was near universal belief that that had been a diplomatic blunder. I made the case that the waste, at least in part, was driven by our willful ignorance of the religious dynamics on the ground in Iraq, which we began to understand far, far too late. Let me run some mind-numbing statistics for you. We need look no further than the cost of lives and dollars from the American invasion to grasp the enormity of the policy blunder. Here's a sample of the human costs. As of 2015, 4,500 U.S. soldiers were killed in Iraq. 32,000 had been wounded. 2.7 million American soldiers were deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan. 400,000 of those served 3 or more deployments. More disabilities per soldier occurred in these two countries than in the Vietnam War, than in the Korean War, or World War II. Some studies estimate that 13% of Iraq veterans suffered from PTSD. 12,000 national police in Iraq were killed. 319 Allied troops died. 36,000 opposition fighters died. Somewhere between 137,000 and 160,000 Iraqi and Afghani civilians died. 895,000 veterans in America received disability claims between those two countries. 900,000 disabled Americans now live in our country as a result of wounds they received there. Estimates of the number of Iraqis who died range from 150,000 to 600,000. 307,000 Iraqis became refugees. That means they fled the state. 3.6 million Iraqis became internally displaced people. Let me just simply argue that's not a successful war with casualties like that. A war that continues in some form to this day. The Christian population of Iraq shrank from 1.5 million Christians to 500,000 during the Iraq War. 2/3 of Christians left Iraq in that invasion. It was ironic in my time at the State Department that several conservative Christian groups came to me, and these were religious freedom groups, and they criticized our administration by saying we didn't care about the decline of Christians in the Middle East. But their memories of Iraq always seem to start on January 20th, 2009, when Obama became president. They never went all the way back to 2003, where the invasion was what set off the stampede of Iraqis out of the country, and indeed the exit of Christians out of the Middle East began to proliferate, coincidental with the invasion. Let me hit you with one last statistic. The monetary costs of the war are staggering. There's an institute at Brown University that currently estimates the cost of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, including appropriations, expenditures, estimates of future spending, and the cumulative interest on the debt we racked up through 2056 is $7.9 trillion. I don't know what the translation would be into Ukrainian currency, but it's a big number. You can pay a lot of tuition for $7.9 trillion. You can build multiple university campuses for $7.9 trillion. You can feed all kinds of people fleeing all kinds of natural disasters for $7.9 trillion. And guess what? My grandchildren, Jose's grandchildren, are going to be paying that debt for the next 30, 40, 50 years. Let me read to you, in conclusion, summarizing, what I think are the best 5 paragraphs that describe Iraq. I'm writing a longer book right now. I've been reading about Iraq, and trying to summarize what I see there. And I keep coming back to these 5 paragraphs. They're so brilliantly written, I decided not to paraphrase them, but to read them, even though scholars are not supposed to do that. But there's a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter for the New York Times, C.J. Childers, who covered both Afghanistan and Iraq. And here is his haunting summary that I wake up sweating to at night. On one matter, there can be no argument. The policies that sent these men and women abroad, with their emphasis on military action and their visions of reordering nations and cultures, have not succeeded. It is beyond honest dispute that the wars did not achieve what the organizers promised, no matter the party in power or the generals in command. Astonishingly expensive, strategically incoherent, sold by a shifting slate of senior officers and politicians and editorial page hawks. The wars have continued in various forms and under different rationales each and every year since the passenger jets struck the World Trade Center in 2001. They continue today without end in sight. Reauthorized in Pentagon budgets almost as if distant war is a presumed government action. As the costs have grown, with the measures in dollars spent, stature lost, or bloodshed, the war's architects and the commentators supporting them have often been ready with optimistic or airbrushed predictions, each pitched to the latest project or newly appointed general's plan. According to the bullhorns and depending on the year, America's military campaigns abroad would satisfy justice, displace tyrants, keep violence away from the Western soil, spread democracy, we're going to come back to that, foster development, prevent sectarian war, protect populations, reduce corruption, bolster women's rights, decrease the international heroin trade, check the influence of extreme religious ideology, create Iraqi and Afghan security forces that would be law-abiding and competent, and finally, build nations that might peacefully stand on their own in a global world, all while discouraging other would-be despots and terrorists. Aside from displacing tyrants and leading to the eventual killing of Osama bin Laden, none of this turned out as pitched. Prominent successes were short-lived. New thugs rose where old thugs fell. Corruption and lawlessness remained endemic. An uncountable tally of civilians, many times the number of those who perished in the terrorist attacks in the United States in 2001, were killed. Others were wounded or driven from their homes, first by American action, and then by violent social forces American action helped unleash. The governments of Afghanistan and Iraq, each of which the United States spent hundreds of billions of dollars to build and support, were fragile, brutal, and uncertain. The nations they struggled to rule harbor large contingents of irregular fighters and terrorists who had been hardened and made savvy, trained by the experience of fighting the American military machine. Much of the infrastructure the United States built with its citizens' treasure and its troops' labor lies abandoned. Briefly schooled or outposts, many are husks, looted and desolate monuments to forgotten plans. Hundreds of thousands of weapons provided to would-be allies have vanished, and innumerable quality are on the market or in the hands of Washington's enemies. Billions of dollars spent creating security partners, also deputized pedophiles, torturers, and thieves. National police or army units that the Pentagon proclaimed essential to the country's future have disbanded. The Islamic State has sponsored or encouraged terrorist attacks across much of the world, exactly the species of crime the global war on terror was supposed to prevent. Almost two decades after the White House cast American troops as liberators to be welcomed, large swaths of territory where the Pentagon deployed combat forces are under stubborn insurgent influence. Areas once touted as markers of counterinsurgency progress have become no-go zones. Regions in which no Americans dare tread, save a few journalists and aid workers, private military contractors, or American military and CIA teams. Across these years, hundreds of thousands of young men and women signed on in good faith and served in the lower and middle ranks. They did not make policy, they lived within it. Now I'm going to skip over some sections here because I know I'm not making as much progress as I would like during the course of the hour. I want to focus on one of the justifications for going to war. And that was when President Bush argued that there's sort of twin justifications. One was he has weapons of mass destruction, which we learned very quickly was not true. But on the other hand, he said we can form a new form of liberal democracy in Iraq, which can be a beacon of hope and freedom to the Muslim world. And if we are successful there, we will set off a falling set of dominoes so that the allegedly the majority Muslim world will suddenly become like us in terms of governance. But the irony is that as we try to impose that form of liberal democracy on Iraq, we insisted that they restrict the religious freedom of the majority Shia Muslim community. So with no sense of irony, we said, we're bringing religious freedom to you, but the price of that religious freedom is we have to make sure the majority religion doesn't actually become too powerful. And we had no sense of irony, and we actually lost that struggle when early on the Coalition for Original Authority tried to deny democratic elections. They wanted to appoint a committee to draft the first constitution and to cut out particularly Shia religious leaders saying we want to separate mosque and state in Iraq because the fear was that Shia Muslim leaders were all radical terrorists, and if they become the majority in a democracy, then all hopes of liberal democracy will disappear. Now, ironically, a senior Shia cleric, Ayatollah al-Sistani, wrote a fatwa and said it's not democratic for America to come in and write our Constitution for us. It's not democratic for America to appoint the Constitution writers with no Iraqi representation. In other words, they're coming in and cramming the democratic Constitution down our throats. We will not be born a democratic country because we have to vote for it and design it. We will be born a democratic country because America forces it upon us. And society had the power, the cultural power, to bring the process to a halt. And America learned the hard way. We could not impose this form of allegedly liberal democracy without actually consulting the folks, the people themselves, and allowing them the radical choice of designing their own constitution and designing what religious freedom might look like themselves, instead of taking the Americans' word for it. Critical legal historian Anna Sue has shown in her master book, Exporting Freedom, Religious Liberty and American Power, that religious freedom in this case in Iraq played a subordinate role to U.S. strategic security needs in the form of trying to revolutionize the Middle East by manufacturing a democratic Iraq with a constitution modeled very strongly on the American Constitution. Her work shows us that the threat posed by the possibility of an increasing religiously pluralistic public sphere where previously disenfranchised Shiites might play a more influential role overrode the argument for the right of Iraqis to self-determination without regard to religious community membership. Ironically, to install a version of American religious freedom required limiting religious freedom for the majority of Iraq's Shiite Muslims. The irony was lost on us. And I told you the story about how Ayatollah Sistani objected. The true Democrat in this drama was not the American president. The true Democrat was, in fact, one of the chief Ayatollahs of the Shia community. Suffice it to say that the Iraqis prevailed, and I can't tell you the whole story, but read Anna Sue's book if you want to find it. The American plan to try and block Shia participation proved unworkable to the Iraqi people. But for my interest, the point I want to highlight is the fact that in many cases, the United States promoted forms of religious freedom that represented more our strategic security interests and less our human rights interests in religious freedom. And by this, we put religious freedom rights of others on the chopping block. In fact, in this case, the U.S. insistence that Iraq could not be an Islamic republic, that the Constitution could not be drafted by Iraqis, and that Shia religious political power had to be circumscribed, all point to how a U.S. fear of new configurations of religious pluralism meant that we had to limit the religious freedom of certain Iraqi religious groups. Instead of trusting Iraqis to pursue their own path to constitutional democracy, America tried to dictate terms to the country. And when the senior Shia leaders balked at that high-handedness and insisted that Iraqis write their own constitution on their own terms, America had to capitulate. Two quick lessons I want to draw from this episode. First, the design and forms of religious freedom are inherently intertwined in the unique history of each country, wrestling with its own issue set. It's better, I think, to acknowledge the messiness of this than it is to deny these realities and mask them in political bromides such as being more like America. Political power is always interwoven into the process of trying to secure human rights, including religious freedom for all. The second lesson is that minority religions do actually have agency. And one of the great gambles of democracy is you have to trust people. They actually can muddle through and make up their own minds for themselves. They don't have to have paternalistic superpowers looking over their shoulders, telling them where to go and what to do and what not to do. At its heart, democracy has a trust that people can come together and do the hard work together to forge the fate of their country when it comes to human rights. They cannot be dictated at the end of the barrel. Sometimes my country has a hard time trusting other people to that extent. So the lesson, I think, is to recognize that religious freedom can sometimes be applied in religiously pluralistic contexts in ways that actually advantage certain religious groups and disadvantage others. And this is not good. Perhaps we can talk more about that in the Q&A. The American record here is not entirely innocent, to put it mildly. It's hard to export democracy via invasion. It's harder still to export American-style religious freedom with a separation of mosque and state in an environment where an Islamic state is seen as axiomatic. A Western-style secular government is seen as a bridge too far. Even in some cases, it is seen to be antagonistic to Islam. With no sense of irony, American right-wing evangelical Christians in 2003 were arguing there has to be a secular state in Iraq while maintaining back in the United States that we really were a Christian nation. My final case study, which I will skip through very quickly, is the 1960 presidential race. I wrote a book. You have free time, buy the book, read the book, read the whole story. But in a nutshell, Protestants were terrified at the prospect that a Catholic might finally become president after so many years being present in our country but as a minority religion. It's hard to convince Americans, much like other people in 2019, how deeply held the vision and belief was in America that we will never elect a Catholic president, nor should we ever elect a Catholic president. It was accepted common wisdom that that will never happen, and if it looked like it should happen, it shouldn't. So what was the structure of the Protestant argument against Catholics? It goes something like this. The Catholic Church, by its own definition, was both a church and a state. Vatican City was the capital of the Catholic world. The Catholic world was also headquartered in Europe. And if you know anything about America's history, we covered a lot of ground in our early years of saying we're not like Europe. We are better because we have been delivered into the wilderness by the hand of God to do things better than they did back in the homeland, where the homeland had to be treated. To be Catholic meant that one had an ultimate loyalty to the Catholic Church and the Vatican State, not the United States, is the argument. Any Catholic president had a fundamental divided loyalty. And the Pope, as the head of this state, would control not only the Vatican, but the United States, because the Catholic Church would demand the ultimate loyalty of any Catholic president. Such an arrangement would threaten the religious freedom of Protestants, because a Catholic president, at least at best, would put their interests second to the demands of the Pope. And an array of public policies that were theologically approved by the Pope would quickly emerge from the new White House. Federal funding for Catholic schools, foreign aid to Catholic countries, federal ban of birth control. As the saying went, error had no rights, and Protestants would be at best second-class citizens. Now, there's a problem to that argumentation. I'm not going to walk through it, but that was the argument that was incredibly powerful in America in 1960. Protestants take many things to fear from Catholics. So the argument went that because the preferred form of government was a monarchy, and in a Catholic state, democracy itself would be under threat. And all of this then builds a cumulative slippery slope argument that in order to preserve the religious freedom of the majority of Protestants, we would have to circumscribe the religious freedom to protect we Protestants from those Catholics, because they would take away our religious freedom. So again, the irony is lost on America. You see a continuing theme here. That in the name of preserving religious freedom for Protestants, we have to take it away from Catholics. I am arguing that that may be an eternal, constant temptation on the part of the majority of religions in democracy, but it must be resisted, because it itself is a contradiction of what religious freedom is about. The result of that election was the closest popular vote in the history of the American Republic. If one vote had changed in each precinct in America, Richard Nixon would have won that election and John Kennedy lost. Now, the good news is that he became the Catholic president, and suddenly the Pope did not move in the cloud. All of the great fears that Protestants had did not actually come true. And so we had to go through the narrow miss where we almost embraced a restriction of religious freedom to get a Catholic president in his 3.5 years in the office, demonstrated 3 years, demonstrated indeed there was not this existential threat from the Catholic Church. The moral of the story seems to be that democracies can constantly be tempted in the face of rising religious pluralism to cut moral and political corners by resorting to tamp down the religious freedom of minority religions in the name of protecting majority rights. 3 quick lessons now. First, if you live in a liberal democracy that's pluralistic religiously, and you care about religious freedom for all, we need to be attuned to the temptation to see increasing religious pluralism as a threat to the religious freedom of majority religions. Once you see the possible irony in limiting religious freedom for minority groups in order to protect majority group rights, you're no longer talking about protecting human rights for all. We have to resist those fears. Right now, my president is trafficking on those fears, and he's doing it successfully. Secondly, securing the religious freedom rights of all is inherently political. The heavens are not going to open up and the Ukraine plan fall down out of the sky to rest all under legal heavens. You have to work this out for yourselves through the political process, no matter how frustrating that might actually be. Lastly, I want to argue that religious pluralism is a valuable commodity in democracy. In drawing metaphor from ecology, complex ecosystems are more resilient in the face of change than our modern cultures? Could it be that Ukraine's political health and future are inextricably bound up in its religious pluralism? In other words, a religiously diverse landscape might actually be one of the keys to your future in the face of neighbors who are trying to promote a hegemonic form of religious monoculture. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you very much. No, you stay there, I'll stay here at the corner. Thank you very much for this attempt to give some lessons. Thank you very much for the attempt to give some lessons from American history about religious pluralism and religious freedom. We have about half an hour time for questions and comments, and I hope that we can apply the lessons we may ask about the situation in Ukraine today, where the questions of religious pluralism and religious freedom are obviously very, very active. So, as you raise your hands, I'll basically identify you, and please give your names when you ask the question. So please. Don't be afraid. Le voy a desaprocho. No tak proszę.
I'm the student of the Religious Studies Department of the Philosophy Faculty of the Kyiv National University, and my question is the next. Why the speech was more political than religious studies? Why there were so much about American history and politics, but not the religious studies and the concrete topic, yes?
That's a very good question. Let me explain that in each case it was the intersection of religion and politics. So in the case of what President Trump did, he was using politics to limit the activities of a religious group. I gave an example of the Catholic Church's response. So again, that's a religious studies topic, looking at what one church did to respond. I would argue in the second case of the invasion of Iraq, one of America's political aims was to expand democracy and religious freedom. So again, we see the intersection of religion, religious studies, and politics. And in the last case, where we elected a Catholic president for the only time in our history, the strongest argument against voting for John McCain was not his policy, it wasn't his background, but it was simply the fact he was a member of a specific, in this case, Catholic church, and his opponents were saying, by its definition as a Catholic, he was not qualified to be president. So in each case, I hope you see the intersection of both politics and religious studies.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Please.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your speech, but my question isn't connected with religion. My question is connected with nature of democracy. You know, Ukraine was a part of USSR, and those people who lived under this totalitarian oppression couldn't tell the truth and take over responsibility, because you know, if you said something like, "Hey, dudes, we live in cruel and in cruel state, and we have a lot of senseless repressions. You would have been killed by KGB." And you know, as a result, we have a society which is responsible, which is decideful. We have a lot of politicians who are responsible and who are decideful. And my question is how to solve this problem?
How many meetings do we have?
You know, that's a great question. I can't give you a systematic answer, but let me tell you a couple of stories. When I was in Lviv, I met several people who lived through the communist era, in fact, lived in gulags and were persecuted specifically for their religious belief. And it was Miroslav who described to me what it was like in the gulag camp, where suddenly religious faith became an existential thing that sustained people through that period of persecution. And many of the confessional lines that divided these people when they were not oppressed suddenly disappeared. And even described that a Jewish man became worshipped with them because he felt solidarity with this very ecumenical group of Christians. So I would simply point out that your history, and certainly the history of my country, there have been many, many examples where religious communities sustained people through the degradation, through the oppression, through the persecution, through the genocide in some cases. So one way human beings have gotten to the other side of that suffering in human history is because of the solidarity they feel through religious brotherhood and sisterhood. So I just simply would say, in this part of the world, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of witnesses who experienced or saw something like that. So I have no formula that can liberate all human beings from all forms of political oppression, but I am moved by the historical resources you have here very close at hand in your own country.
Please.
Hi, thank you for your informative lecture. My name is Roma, as a film introduced by in Oscar lately, you know, and we cannot deny that through the history of human mankind, there were a lot of wars and other conflicts based and moreover provided by religious questions. And I wanted to say that through the history of Ukrainian nation, there were a lot of such problems, such type of problems, and such questions connected with influences of these religious questions on the formation of our society, of our nation moreover. And maybe all over the globe, people can say that the main role in formation of Ukrainian nation was played by Orthodox Christians. But here in Ukraine, Ukrainians and even historians can say that maybe the main role in formation of our nation was played by not the Orthodox Christian, but by Greek Catholicism Church. Maybe a phenomenon of a connection of this Catholicism and Orthodox Christian and so on. And my question is, how powerful and how strong was these such religious questions on formation of American nation? Thank you.
No, that's a great question. Certainly, the American religious influences have been central from the founding of the country. You know, in northern New England, we had the Puritans who traced their lineage back to Calvin in Geneva, and then in the sort of mid-Atlantic and south, the Anglican tradition coming from the United Kingdom. So we didn't start out with one denomination. Pretty much from the beginning, we had a pluralism. Now, it was a minuscule pluralism. It was basically two dominant groups. But Reinhold Niebuhr, the theologian we were mentioning earlier, talked about how there were regional influences. Calvinist theology had a different emphasis in New England. Anglican theology had a different kind of influence in the South. But very quickly, we draw a line then from the founding of the nation in 1789 now to 2019, the religious landscape of America, it's a globe, and no one, I don't think anyone can name the official number of different religions that actually exist in America. And I often say to the State Department, if there was a form of religiosity in the world, there was a cousin or an aunt or a nephew or a brother-in-law who practiced it in the United States. So religious pluralism has had a tremendous influence in the formation of our country. It means we're a glorious mess, and our civil society we argue and we fight and we tug, but we have always tried to come back to the recognition that that is good for America. That form of diversity is not a scandal or a problem to be solved and moved off the stage, but it can make us stronger as a country as we wrestle. But every once in a while in our history, someone rises up and says, you know, it's not a good thing that we go to a different church. I have more votes than you, so sorry about how things are going to be for you. And I think we're in a cycle of that, where we have a president who's willing to exploit, in this case, a minority theological position over against, say, Muslims coming into the country. And we have these periodic eruptions of populism in our country where religion gets exploited in, I would say, anti-democratic ways. I don't think we're ever going to be rid of that temptation in America. I think we're always, some of us are going to be susceptible to the argument, well, if I belong to the right church, I should be able to tell you how to live your life, because obviously I'm smarter than you, and God loves me more than He loves you. And we're always going to be vulnerable to those kinds of appeals. But I would much rather wrestle with that than to live in a country where you have a single state church and you have a single political party that enforces orthodoxy both politically and theologically from the top of society. I would rather wrestle with the messiness of real democracy than in a state church democracy.
Please. Then you take, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Maybe, yes, we have time for each of them, so please.
I have a simple question. In retrospect, it's easy to say today probably that invasion in Iraq is a worst blunder. Did you foresee that it was going to be a blunder back in 2003? And if you did you have a chance to advise the government or the president or anyone? And then does Trump today have advisors who have prophetic voice and might advise them in that prophetic manner?
So in 2003, I was a lowly assistant professor. Okay, I was fresh out of graduate school. Even people at my own family table didn't take my advice. So I had no public political power. But that was when I began to think that living in Washington, D.C., teaching theology and ethics might present the opportunities to begin to try to lead and develop a public voice. And opposing the Iraq War was something I did. I helped organize, I helped work in the media. And that ultimately led me to getting a job with John Kerry a decade later. I did indeed believe it was going to be a blunder before it happened. I sadly was proven to be right. I was not alone. There were millions of Americans who foresaw this.
Including the government, sir.
Including, the Pope was on my side, so that's a joke. Now, on the second question, does Trump have prophetic advisors around him? I don't think so. He does have religious advisors around him, but they're always agreeing with him. I think a true prophet is going to stand up and say, I like you. I think you're really smart, but I think you're wrong. And if that means I never get to speak to you again, you never invite me back to the White House, so be it. I'm going to be honest and direct with you. And that's hard.
Okay, thank you.
Take this. Second one. Yeah, third. No. Okay. So you are the first one. The next one, then no. Okay, please. Second, third, fourth, fifth.
My name is Al, and I have a question to you. In your speech, you highlighted the cases of Trump and Kennedy as politicians who are connected to the religious rhetoric. And my question is, Trinidad religious freedom can be useful and a democratic society can turn to the society into despotism. Thank you.
That's a great question. I do believe that legally and constitutionally a president can frame their arguments for policy in theological terms. Now, if that's all you do is say, vote for my policy because the United Methodist Church, of which I'm a member, says this is a good policy, that's bad politics. It's probably also bad theology. Because in a pluralistic society, you appeal to whatever, I mean, in this sense, I'm very Aristotelian. You look, politically, you look for arguments that actually pragmatically work. No theological argument is going to be persuasive to every American. It's just a simple fact. Because of our diversity, just because I invoke the Methodist bishops, that doesn't mean everybody in America is going to say, who knew I'm going to change my vote. I'm Catholic, but the Methodists told me to vote this way. That's not the way it works in America. I do believe that the most effective presidents, and here I point to Abraham Lincoln, and there's a wonderful book by Richard Carradine, who's an Oxford historian, called Lincoln, A Life of Purpose and Power. And he shows how Lincoln, who was a heterodox Christian, if even a Christian, helped attract evangelical Christians to his anti-slavery coalition by using, if you read his second inaugural speech, it is the most overtly Christian theological speech I think any American president has ever given. And he wasn't a member of any formal Christian church. But he leveraged, he used religious, in this case Christian rhetoric, to persuade people in America that we need to oppose slavery, and we need to preserve the Union. So there's a way you can speak, I think, inclusively out of your own faith that doesn't alienate people who don't share the specifics of your theological worldview. But it takes smarts, it takes skill, and I would simply say as president, you have to try to appeal to all of the people, which means you have to employ a variety of rhetorical frames that will attract a majority in our country.
So let's pass the microphone to the young man over there. You will be the seats. 4th, 5, 6.
Well, thank you for your speech, and you talked about very important problem like religious tolerance, yeah? And I think here we should mention as British philosopher and political thinker John Locke, because, well, the idea of religious tolerance, it's not very old. It's very young. It started in the end of 17th century. And even in that books we can find, okay, we should stop and think about peace among Christians. But we should not think about Muslims and other people. But time has changed, so we find new answers. And when we talk about Iraq invasion, well, I think we should go deeply and talk about origins of that conflict and why that happened. And I think we should even go more in the, of course, it's the beginning of 20th century, but also in the end of 20th century. And I understand it's a very important problem for the United States because it's like very important value of the United States. Like, yeah, you can come to the country of freedom and it's not a matter of who you are, you can just be free here. So I understand it's a very important question for you, but in Ukraine we have not very easy situation right now, and this question is also very important, how we can solve these problems in good way, in the best way. And I want to mention, when I mentioned just one phrase, you can be a tolerant to intolerant person, because if you will be, it will be better than for you. And he also talked about populism, yeah? Trump got some points about Muslims, he thinks, okay, I'm right. And he talked about, like, okay, we'll give an answer for a lot of people who have some problems. And as practice have shown us, populism is quite an easy answer. So we go back to democracy and democracy values, so we fight against populism. And in Ukraine, we also see this experience. But as for me, I don't see your opposition like populism and some more conservative and only democratic. Because if we will talk about democratic, we talk about globalization. And if we will talk about globalization in the Middle East, to my mind it will be not a solution. Because like way of life is that people are quite different. So we cannot talk about only populism and like short and quick answers and about maybe some perspective in the future and about democratic values. We should find golden middle way. So what do you think about that? Thank you.
Let me respond to the toleration point. If you know the history of the rise of religious freedom from the wars of religion and the Peace of Westphalia to, say, Thomas Jefferson, we didn't leap immediately to an American-style religious freedom for all. There was a period of toleration where depending on who the regent was in a country, that would be whatever the regent's religion was the dominant religion of the state. And to a certain extent, members of other religions were tolerated, but they couldn't proselytize. But that was an intermediate step. And I'm stereotyping a very long, multi-century transition. The West didn't go from the Peace of Westphalia in 1648 to the American conception of religious freedom in 2019. There was an evolutionary historical process in the West. So I find it ironic that when we invaded Iraq in 2003, when we insisted there could not be an Islamic State, which no Muslim cleric in Iraq would have considered. That absolutely would have been seen as a secular hegemonic defeat of a fundamental Islamic tenet. But what we didn't say was, in Iraq actually has a history of religious toleration, where religious minorities, Christians, Shabbat, Jews, others were able to live without persecution. Now, they didn't have full civil rights. I'm willing to argue, I want religious freedom for all in a liberal democracy. That's the kind of polity I want to live in. That's why I will recommend to anybody who asks me what I think the best, most workable form of political organization is. But I'm also smart enough to realize if you try to impose that in certain parts of our world, you're going to end up with chaos. The Iraq situation, I think, now this is ultimately, I think, what they got. They got a constitution. It was an Islamic constitution. It is an Islamic state, but they do have guarantees for gender rights, for religious rights, and for the rights of women and girls. I would call that interim form of toleration. So we have historical examples where you go from something in the absence of religious freedom to religious freedom, and sometimes that middle historical way station is what I would call toleration.
For the gentleman, the lady there, and then the six here. And I think this will be about it. Okay? Well, you had a question, so you can stand. So we'll see whether there is time for a second question.
Excuse me, may I ask a question in Ukrainian? And translate it. Можна українською, так? Просто я не сформулюю. Я буду повільно, Отже, перше, ми говоримо про релігію, і ми знаходимося в Україні, і дуже дивно, що ми не задали про Томос. Я б хотіла задати питання. Вам досить цікава ваша думка щодо Томосу. У нас утворилася Українська помісна церква. Але є певна частина України, і я точно знаю таких людей, прихожан, які все ще відносять себе до Української православної церкви Московського патріархату, які були хрещені там, які були вінчані, і вони не хочуть відмовлятися від неї будь-якою ціною. Ви сьогодні в лекції згадували про свободу віросповідання, про свободу в релігії. Я хочу запитати, чи оцей Томос утворення Української помісної церкви не є обмеженням прав тих людей, які хочуть відносити себе до церкви Московського патріархату, скажімо так? Чи Томос це не є обмеженням цієї частини людей, а таких людей досить багато, особливо на сході України, на півдні і тому подібне? Чи Томос не є обмеженням? Дякую.
That's a fabulous question. I mean, again, acknowledging my naivete in Ukrainian history and theology, let me take a stab at that. I think this is a crucial moment for the Orthodox Church in Ukraine, and it's a crucial moment for Ukraine itself. Speaking as an individual, it would be disturbing to me if the new Autocephalous Orthodox Church becomes the state church and if it were essentially to try to excommunicate other Orthodox entities. In other words, if what I believe is true about pluralism, it may take a while for the Orthodox to make up their minds about will there be 3 Orthodox churches, will there be one, will there be 2? I don't think the government should impose that. I certainly don't think an American Protestant theologian should be the one to assert that. So it could tip in a couple of directions, which I would say are not good. If it becomes a state church to the exclusion of other religious groups, if it becomes a domineering presence saying, okay, you're now schismatic if you happen to be a member of the Moscow Patriarchate churches, but can they find a way of working together going forward to preserve real pluralism and then sort it on a day-to-day basis among Ukrainians? That would be, I think, the ideal. So you embrace the pluralism, you embrace a secular state that's not linked permanently with any of the religious groups, be they Christian or otherwise, and then you become a liberal democracy where you allow all the religious choices to flourish or decline, to grow or to disappear, but you do it without bloodshed and you do it without conflict. Does that make sense?
I have 2 questions actually. Not related to your stories about Iraq. Actually, after you provided us figures and numbers, which the United States of America, in resources, in manpower invested into many operations in Iraq. And then actually what was the initial idea and what are the outcomes now. And actually we told that there is a problem. Don't you think that actually you have created problems with Muslim community globally, when many of the people in the Muslim community now, after 15 years of the operation in Iraq, in Afghanistan, suppose the United States to be some kind of crusaders, which they now are opposed. Moreover, you have quite a huge Muslim community in the United States, and many of them are connected to their, let's call it, sisters and brothers abroad. So you have imported some kind of security problem inside of yourself. Don't you see here a problem? And the second question is to some extent related to Ukraine, but generally. First of all, once more about Muslim community and the outcomes and the initial idea. Don't you think that actually religious freedom, it is not the thing that could be exported or imported. It's just the thing or the phenomenon which could grow only from inside, from society itself, from country itself. We have a bad example in our Ukrainian history, and now to some extent we once more come to bad stories. When in our religion issues, somebody from outside tells us or pushes us to some corner, and then we Ukrainians at the end of the day have the problems. Before anybody influenced us on religious questions, we did not have any problems with religious tolerance and so on and so on. Now we are starting to have them. Don't you see that this is just the phenomena, despite the idea, for example, in the United States, the other countries, that you can say, I have the best model in religious tolerance and so on and so on, but it doesn't mean or should not mean that I should impose this best model to any other country, because each country has its own specifics.
So I'm not sure I understand your first point, but let me focus on the second one. I'm close to your position, I think, but I'm not exactly where you are. So if you and I disagree about a political proposition, if you say, Sean, I want to commend to you another view, I take no offense. Perhaps you'll persuade me that you're right and I'm not, and by listening to you, being open to your ideas, if you say, Sean, you can accept my belief or not, that's fine. That's a basic form of human communication and human exchange. If you come and say, Sean, here's a gun, I'm pointing it at your head, we disagree, and unless you agree with me, I'm going to pull the trigger, that's coercion. That's not human communication. So if we apply this terrible analogy to religious freedom, I will commend a secular state and a religiously plural state to anybody who asks me in the abstract, what kind of country do I want to live in? I would say, that's the kind of country I want to live in. But if I come and put a gun to your head and say, your country has to adopt my view of religious freedom, or else we're going to get into an act of self-destruction here, that's coercion. That is not communication. And I think that was the difference in the Iraq case. We tried to coerce the Iraqi government to accept a form of religious freedom that was just beyond their ability to accept. So I think we can pursuits of truth, but neither one of us necessarily has a knockdown, self-evident argument that will prevail over every human being we meet. And so we can have a view of religious freedom, we can commend it, we can argue from history, we can argue from ethics, we can argue from philosophy, we can argue from sociology. At the end of the day, we might not be able to persuade somebody of our views. At that point, if we resort to coercion, we actually undermine the validity of the argument we're going to make. So I have no problem with people coming to me and commending moral views to me and saying, do you believe them? Can I persuade you? And if I say no, and that they don't try to coerce me or force me to those views, we've had an intellectual exchange, and that's what part of being human is all about.
The final question, please. There will be no time for no, this is the final question.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your lecture today. It is very interesting and was, in some cases, as I'm also a researcher of foreign politics, I'm not entirely agree with what you're saying about Iraq. So, I mean, in terms of the complexity of the talk. But my question is that today we are experiencing some kind of reaction onto politics that was promoted by progressivist parties, progressivist politicians throughout the last decades. And this reaction is both exploited by populists, as we can see in Europe and in the United States, and is also used constructively by some political forces that are interested in reason and interested in human rights and freedoms. So, in your opinion, what is the place of Christians, or mostly they are Christian organizations in Europe and the United States, in such reaction to this progressivist politics? And the second one is, where is the border after which the church becomes the violator of human rights, such as political rights, gender rights, and basically abortion rights, because this is the hot topic for any religious organization, and they don't support this, as we know. Thank you.
Those are two very good questions. I would say certainly I'm less comfortable talking about the European context. But in the American context, if you talk about religious responses to, say, populism, you see the full range. You see some religious groups embracing populism, saying, yes, finally somebody's speaking up for our views. You see religious communities at 180 degrees the other way saying, this is absolutely the antithesis of what we believe. Although I will say now, I think by weight and by volume, that there are more Christians in America, and Jose, we know we debate this, but I think more now, in March of 2019, I think the more Christians in America who are looking at the populists who support our president rhetorically. In other words, even among white evangelicals who tend to like this president, we're seeing at least some modest decline in their support for the president and so on. It's going to be very interesting in our presidential race to see where, for instance, Roman Catholic voters go in voting. My prediction is fewer Roman Catholics are going to vote for Trump for re-election in 2020. I think a slightly reduced number of white evangelicals are going to vote for him as well. But on the whole, at least initially, you saw religion responding across the entire political spectrum, from just absolute horror to a warm embrace. I think both, if I understand the second question, religion is a multivalent force. So there are Christian groups in the world today who see the so-called progressive human rights activities that you refer to. Some see that as deeply problematic. Some see that as a direct extension of the most deeply held Christian theological beliefs. I don't think we're going to see a sorting of that towards one pole or the other in the near future, at least in the United States, and probably not even in Europe as well. So it's a complex issue set worthy of more reflection, more study, and more debate.
For those interested in those issues, particularly Thomas and the Autocephalous Church in Ukraine, yesterday Professor Sean Casey had an interview with Natalia Kumeniuk at Hormatske TV, and this morning both of us had an interview with Mr. Kniasetsky at Expresso TV that will be broadcast. A long time ago I had a lengthy interview also with Polatsky TV and the whole situation of the Tomos and the struggle for Orthodox unity and the conflicts with the Moscow Patriarchate. So you can, if you are interested, go after those interviews. I would like to thank all of you for your presence, for the audience, and for your questions, and especially let's give a thank to Professor Sean Casey for his lecture.